that is created out of very simple things, the complex things that we are, including the moral beings that we are. And again, there's every reason to think that you can be moral without God, and indeed, that most people do rather a better job of it without God than with. Thank you very much.
I thank the member for concluding the debate and invite both debaters to cross the floor and shake hands.
Well, thank you very much, Reverend Booth, Dr. Sousa, for making time to come all the way to Ottawa for this event. I think we can all give them another good round of applause. I hope this debate answered a lot of questions, and that it will give you the little nudge that was needed to continue asking such questions. I'd encourage you to go check out ultimatequestions.org, which is the website that is made for questions such as these, and also several others. At the back, there's lots of information about the different organizations that were involved, such as Campus for Christ, the Center for Inquiry, the English Debating Society, and even some information about another event like this at the University of Ottawa, at the Agora, that is put on by the Spiritual Services Center at Thursday at noon. If you want to know any more information, there's lots of it in the back. Thank you all for coming, and have an excellent evening.
I have not experienced tomorrow, if knowledge is just based on experience. Now, those are beliefs about the future, beliefs about my experience. What warrants those beliefs? You see, Dr. Sousa says that if he does something, if he shines a torch, or there might be any number of ramifications, any number of things that are caused by any given event. But he's assuming that because he can't see the reason for everything, that everything is therefore random. That seems to be a questionable argument. Just because I can't appreciate, because I'm not infinite, the reason or causal effects of everything, doesn't mean there isn't one. I mean, if you turned up to math class or whatever tomorrow and said, well, I can't see the function of that equation, there can't possibly be a meaning in that, well, you wouldn't get very far with your studies, would you? Just because I can't perceive the reason doesn't mean there isn't a reason. That's the nature of being a creature. We're creatures. I'm not the creator. I'm not causing electrical impulses to pass between the cortical hemispheres of my brain so I can think. I'm conscious of my dependence. I'm a finite creature. Then raise the problem of evil, which is a serious question. And I want to acknowledge that. I want to acknowledge that it's a difficult question to deal with. The first thing I want to say, though, is that Dr. Sousa cannot justify a moral critique of God on the basis of his worldview. In his worldview, as Dawkins has put it, we've only got blind, pitiless indifference. There is no justice or injustice. On what basis does Dr. Sousa call God to moral account? There is no objective standard. There is no overarching... This is not a moral universe. This is a universe of flux, of electrons, of chemicals and chaos. He says he can't believe in this bullying God of the Bible who condones rape, genocide and damnation. Well, I will deal with this more in the Q&A, but I can tell you that that's not the God of the Bible that I'm reading. In fact, the God of the Scriptures that I read about does condemn rape. Go and read the Ten Commandments. He does condemn genocide. The Bible has a great deal to say, for example, about slavery. In fact, if you want to read direct condemnations of slavery, you can do so in Exodus chapter 20:15 and Exodus 21:16 and 1 Timothy 1:8 through 10, and in numerous other places where I haven't got time to discuss the difference between a bondservant and a slave. But God strictly forbids man-stealing, that's kidnapping, and enslavement. In fact, it's punishable by death. So I do wish Dr. Sousa would give a fairer treatment of Scripture.
1 minute.
Hell. What of hell? Of course, in the end, this question does come back to this, doesn't it? In the end, we put up all these so-called intellectual objections and so-called rational objections, even though we can't make sense of rationality without God or logic or reason or truth or morality. It comes back to this question of, is God just? Just because I can't see all the reasons why God does things doesn't mean he hasn't got a morally sufficient reason. There's nothing logically contradictory about an all-good, all-powerful God and evil. We add a bridge premise. We say that God must want to eliminate all evil, but does God have morally sufficient reasons for permitting it? Hell is not somewhere where you are sent by God. Hell is the perfection of this state of autonomy, the isolation of the self, where men and women say, I'm going to be my own God, I'm going to start with the finite self, I'm going to begin with myself as ultimate, and God is out, and in the end, all community, all relationship, we end up, in fact, in the void of existentialism, the abyss of loneliness, the abyss of isolation, the abyss of total isolation from all community, because we've rejected the God of community and relationship. And that God invites you into community and relationship with Him. Judgment, the judgment in the end is God allows us, even in eternity, the choice to reject Him.
I thank the member for his remarks and call upon the speaker for side opposition to deliver his refutation in an address not to exceed 10 minutes. Hear, hear.
Thank you. Now I'm supposed to be arguing here that God doesn't exist, but it seems to me that Joe's gone a lot further. He's argued that I don't exist. I don't exist because, although he did actually take this back in his last comment, so I'm actually a bit confused about this, because in his original presentation he essentially said that even atheists in effect believed in God. So therefore I don't believe in God, so I'm not even an atheist, I don't even exist. If I did exist, I would be able to make logical arguments, but without God I can't do that, so I can't exist. I thought that I had moral views and convictions, but according to him, if there is no God, I can't have any moral convictions, because if there is no God, then there is no morality. So I'm puzzled, and I appear before you as a non-existent entity. Now, much of the basis of the arguments you've heard are that you can't get mind out of physical objects. Now, mathematics aren't physical, and in order to understand non-physical things, we have to be somehow non-physical. Now, I think that if there's anything that we can be reasonably sure of, on the basis of science, and by reasonably sure of, I'm not offering a certainty in the way in which religious people like to offer certainties, and in which I think that subtended in effect here, under the arguments you've heard, is the idea that God is a certainty, because otherwise nothing else could exist. So what else could be more certain than whatever is needed for anything else to exist? Well, I'm not offering any certainties. But I am suggesting that there is no fundamental puzzle about physical objects embodying non-physical reality. Let me give you an example. I have here a Palm Centro, beautiful piece of technology, and let me tell you something about it. If I have a soul, it has a soul. Why? Well, because if I have a soul, because I am a physical object capable of having meaning, making inferences, and somehow manipulating information. This thing, I take it with me on planes.